Good morning. Um, Hope everybody's well. I don't. I can't tell you the last time I got on and posted anything like this. My hands kind of ashy. Posted anything. Um, you know, it's been a while, but there has been something. Um, as we say, I've been struggling with here these last several years, several years, and it seems like, everybody know, well, anybody who knows me, everybody knows I just turned 40, and I was, trying to be on this new path and, um, trying to get my life right. And I, when it comes to forgiveness, and this morning, like never before, it has weighed so heavily on me. Just the idea, the concept of forgiveness. Um, I have never been the type of person who, you do something shady one day, on Monday, or say something that impacts me a certain way, and I interpret what you said or did as some sort of personal violation. I can't sit and laugh with you and have lunch with you on Tuesday. Like, I've never been that dude. Professionally, it has been a challenge to deal with that part of myself that's not okay with things like that. Like, I guess there's an expectation that when we, have some sort of fallout or, um, or when something is said or done that I interpret as a personal violation, or it hits me a certain type of way, like, so that I'm doing the work of properly and accurately examining what that meant as opposed to how I felt it. That's something, you know, that's something I've been good at, I think. And then there's some things like it's only one way to interpret that. Like, pretty, you know, pretty forthright. It's pretty like it's only one thing we could do with that. There's no there's nothing left to be desired. You know what I'm saying? So separating the Tawan whose mama sent him to school and entering into this professional life um, from my early 20s and now to 40, the landscape really hasn't changed much. But I can't do that. I don't know if it's a chromosome that's that's missing. I don't know if it's some sort of gene that I don't have, whereby you do or say something and I'm just supposed to be cool with it and laugh with you and clown with you and have a conversation with you. I just don't have it. And it's not getting better. Like it's getting worse. Like I am the type of person, like, you say something or you do something, like, and I feel it a certain type of way, legit, like, I will stay there. Like, my cutoff game is strong and it's indefinite. So my challenge, and I'm talking about, for the most part, I'm talking about in the work that I do, and particularly you know from now through the past, like colleagues, directors, admin, supervisors, what you gonna do? Like, you gotta come to work. I gotta, like, I didn't cut you off, but I gotta see you. We have to work together. We are a team. We have to collaborate. We have to, you know, in order to be effective at the work that we do. And we have to have conversations about it. But when you've had, 2 and 3 years of conversation and dialogue about the same behavioral patterns, both with myself and, a particular person, it's like, all right, then what changes is not necessarily the landscape, but what changes is, now what is my objective? When do I do the real work of evaluating whether or not it's time? Because I've been in circumstances, professionally or otherwise, where, and I know everybody else has, those hallmark symbols. Like, these are the things that begin to happen when God is saying to me, your palm gear device is off. For real? Goodbye. When God is saying to me, let's move. It's time. And those symbols, those things, those patterns, those things look different for everybody. And for some people, they're the same. But this forgiveness, like, it hit me so hard this morning. Every morning I listen to the same 3 or 4 songs on the way to work, in my worship time, in my meditation time, in my prayer time, which could be a lot better. I spend the most time in prayer on my way to the office. And I just started thinking this morning how forgiveness, and in my profession, how I've compartmentalized it. Like, a lot of times I think we think that we forgive because we let something go, or because we've detached ourselves from a person, or we've detached ourselves from an experience. I think we feel like sometimes we've forgiven, but I don't think that's always the case. Like, have you really forgiven a person when you walk into a room or into a building and you hear their voice and you just cringe, that might be a sign. Like, nah, we we haven't really forgiven. Or, you know, the smallest things, the simplest things, like you snapping on people. All they said was good morning. So you trying to figure out in your mind, like, based on what you did or what you said yesterday, what you mean good morning? Like, it gets exhausting. And then I have to do the work of figuring out, like, all right, Twan, are you gonna do that with everybody? People are gonna make you mad. People are gonna say things, people are gonna do things. Always. Because people are people. And so am I. I'm a person. I'm sure I've said and done some things that harmed somebody else or has been interpreted by somebody else differently than what I intended it. Intent versus perception can be a very tricky and dangerous thing. What I said versus what you heard, because of your interpretation of the world and of me, can be a very skewed concept. And same thing with me. Based on my history and my life experiences, I hear and see things with a certain perspective and through a certain lens. So when somebody says something or does something, that thing that's right here, it goes up. It's like, oh, let's protect ourselves. Let's get defensive. Because clearly, such and such is on some, today. Is that what that really is? Can I look at it and accept it as God's testing me? Not always. Maybe later. There's some stuff that is just now. There's some stuff. I ain't gotta look big in this. There's some stuff. This is big, okay? Just look. There's some stuff that is just now making sense to me that happened in my 20s, teens, childhood. I'm just now like, oh, like, that's what that was about. Didn't have the capacity to understand it for what it was at the time. But now it's like, oh, whatever that was to produce this, that had to happen. And then there's some stuff I'm like, nah, that ain't have to happen. That didn't need to happen. Just not accepting that. That didn't need to be said. That didn't need to be done. It just is what it is. But when I was thinking about forgiveness this morning, it looks so different for so many people. If we can get to a place where forgiveness is a thing at all. I was thinking about my dad. And you know, we we have very open and honest conversations and dialogue about about our history. Me and my dad, and forgiveness as it relates to my father looks a certain type of way. Um, I always I was always interested in what I call now the why behind the what. I'm always interested in people's why. Like, I see what I see, and I feel the pain of my personal experience. But what was it about you that, on the surface, may have been the source of some of my pain, but what was there behind yours? I've I've always been that person, that dude, like my whole life. And so I started thinking about how forgiveness looked in my relationship with my dad. And he's and this is stuff we talk about all the time. He's very open and honest about the things that he did not do as a father. And I think in some strange way, it prepared me to be the kind of father that my children have. Like, in some way, I can't even really explain it. Perhaps like I wanted to become the version of my father that I did not have. Um, we're great. Like, we do really well. And I've forgiven, and I always have. I always have. And with my dad, forgiveness for some reason is very easy for me because I know his story. I have a story, and he has a lot to do with it. But he got a story. And because I have proper context regarding his story, it it somehow evokes what we call in the world of counseling empathetic understanding. Like, because I better understand, I can be a little more forgiving, a little more unbiased, a little more. I just thought to myself, like, how many of us like walk around with this pain and this hurt that ultimately kills a lot of people in many different ways. It manifests itself in your health. It manifests itself in so many different ways. Some people live and die with it and never have context and never have real answers, if there are any answers at all, or never have some sense of understanding or concept of why. And sometimes with some things, there is no there is no reason. There is no good reason that some things happen. But when it comes to empathetic understanding, it's like I can practice it in some areas, and in others, I'm like, nah. Uh-uh. And from years, I'm not old, but I'm old enough to have had so many experiences where, so many experiences where forgiveness was required, but I couldn't do it. As nice as I was, and nice, it's okay. Um, it'll get you some places, it'll get you in some doors, it'll get you some opportunities, but it's not always expedient. Nice, uh, nice versus compromising one's boundaries are two very different things. Like, I can be nice to you and still properly communicate to you that, hey, this is my line in the sand. Don't cross that. And that's for me. Um, that's about self care, self love, and I haven't done well with that at all. But then one day, when all your energy is gone, when you've exhausted all of your resources, everything, and you've given everything away, and what was once nice is now bitter, short tempered. Where's the breakdown in that? How did that happen? Why? Why did that happen? And the real work begins with raising the question to take a serious self inventory to answer the question why. Sometimes I'll feel a certain way when somebody says something or do something, and I'll, in my head, um, positive self-talk is a thing that we encourage in our field. You know, when you talk to yourself, everybody talk to themselves, but there's negative self-talk and there's positive self-talk. And we've mastered negative self-talk, but this is the thing: if we've been able to master negative self-talk, we also possess the capacity to master positive self-talk. So I'll say something or I'll do something, and sometimes I'll catch myself and I'll be like, all right, Twan, come on now. What was that about? Or even in regard to other people and what they do and say, what was that about? Like, before I go off to this place, fully dependent on what I felt in that moment when it was said or done. And a lot of times when we get there, it's the point of no return. So this world has been hard for me these last almost 20 years. This world, this professional world, like, this version of myself that my work requires. It was hard. It's been hard in the world of counseling. It was hard in the church. God, people would do and say things And even as a pastor, like you're just supposed to be okay with it. And I, at some point, that was out the window. And this is where we mess up. And I've messed up here myself quite a few times. In order to address conflict, we do not have to attack people. And that's for everybody. Confrontation in my scope of practice professionally, confrontation is a healthy concept, a strategy, it's a tool. It's what we do with confrontation that causes us and other people to get to a place where now it's an argument. Now it's a physical altercation. Now it's, you know, but we ain't got to do that. But if that's our language, and if that's the language of the culture, and culture is so big, it's so vast. Like, all right, I'm black, proud of it. I'm 40, proud of it. But within culture, there are many different subcultures. There's a culture that's created right in your household. There's a cultural dynamic created from relationship to relationship. Cultures, it's a culture is the umbrella. The subcultures that are created or developed under the umbrella are something that are completely different. These are the things that shape perspective, how I look at the world, how I hear what I heard, how I feel what I felt when you said what you said or when you did what you did, like how that hit me. That was my cultural dynamic coming into play. And see also my cultural perspective is made up of all of my life experiences. So I'm relying on a lot of that stuff. Like, all right, last time we heard that, or last time we seen that. You know what I'm saying? But this forgiveness thing hit me so hard this morning because I'm in a space where I'm not able to do it for some reason when it comes to this particular person. And I realized that I've done it with my dad. I know the pain of that experience, and I didn't take it at face value. Sometimes when we feel a certain type of way, we know our pain. We know what we feel, and we take it at face value without giving consideration to the why behind the what. I did that before. I've been able to do that. But for some reason, with this particular person, I'm in a place where I can't. And I started thinking this morning about, the text. We hear it a lot. Resurrection Sundays, Easter. I used to preach on it. Jesus from the cross, dying at the hands of the very people he has been sent to save. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I had always had a certain perspective when it came to that text. And I love it. I love that text. It showed the humanity, um, the anthropomorphic, the anthropomorphic side of a transcendent Savior, the human aspect of a divine being, all God, but all man. God enough to heal, but man enough to feel. God enough to save, man enough to be hurt. God enough to deliver, man enough to cry, to bleed. In that moment, it had always been my interpretation of that text that he couldn't do it. Not in that moment. Not in that moment, not on the cross. He couldn't do it. So for me, his outcry to the Father spoke to his incapacity, his human incapacity to forgive in that moment. So it's like, see, some stuff, if I think about my own kids, some stuff your daddy got to do. Some stuff you need your daddy to do. Some stuff you need your mama to do. If you think it's too much for you, if you think it's too big for you, some stuff you need your father to do. And here's Jesus. Father, you do it. Because I ain't got it to do. And I was thinking about it this morning. But then in relationship to that, God showed me something. You've done it before, and you've done the work to forgive. It looked different, but why, a different set of circumstances, but the skill, the capacity to be able to forgive, you possess it. Why is this circumstance so different? Or why is this? Because forgiveness is forgiveness. Now we have categories and we've compartmentalized, different, whatever, but forgiveness is just that. But in my, studies in rehabilitation, that's my academic work, there's this thing called a transferable skill. Okay? And this idea kind of knocked me on my butt this morning when I was thinking about forgiveness. Transferable skills say that if in any capacity you have acquired this knowledge or this skill set, okay, you can transfer that skill, and that knowledge then becomes transferable as it relates to other circumstances, specifically when we're talking about rehab, counseling, and all that stuff, job development, job placement. I used to use examples in class, and my former students, they know, we used to use these scenarios like, all right, let's say you're trying to get your life right. Somebody had to go and do a bid. You know what I'm saying? Upstate, um, for a drug charge, drug possession. Let's say that. Let's say it was the dope boy. If you understand, like they used to clown me a little bit in class, but if you understand the skill set as it relates to management, organization, timeliness, um, diligence, who needs to be where when, at what point and what time does this need to be picked up or delivered, properly managing money, accounts, understanding the concept of supply and demand, like the level of skill that it takes. This is gonna sound so crazy. The level of skill that it takes, if you are good, if you're good at what you do, because I ain't gonna say no good dope dealer. If you're good at what you do, the level of skill that it takes, even if those things are not developed in a professional environment, they are transferable. So now, upon release, right? You don't want that no more. You don't want that life no more. Like you tired. You hit your personal rock bottom. You're tired. And let's just say you decide to take a different path. You want to go to school. You want to go to work. You want to be able to sleep at night, not have to look over your shoulder, not have to think about the safety of your children and your family, your own personal safety. You change. But let's say you don't have much of a work history. Okay? A specialist working in the area of like job development and job coaching can sit with you and say, all right, what are your skills? Have you done any work in the past? Have you had a job in the past? Okay, maybe not. Maybe very few. Well, tell me about, you know, the skills you acquired using the street. Tell me about that. A person might say, well, kid, tell me about that. Come up with a whole list of skills that are now transferable and actually translate. Because when you consider that work, that's what we call on the job experience. You acquire the knowledge as you are working the job. It's transferable. I thought about that this morning, and then I thought about forgiveness. For me personally, why is it not transferable? And for me and my dad, forgiveness looks like I want a father. As a grown man, a 40-year-old, we're two grown men now. And I want you to teach my son how to ride a bike. I want you to throw my son a football. I want you, as best you can, to teach my son some life lessons. I want him around you. Before my daughter buys a car, I want her to take it to my dad. And my dad looks at her car and says, hey, baby girl, it's decent. You still want to get it checked out, but it's decent. You know, looks at all the stuff. Because I can't do it. But I need my daddy to do it. Because while I didn't get the knowledge from him, the healing and the forgiveness is in his teaching my children. And I love it. And I'll take every minute of it. I'll take every minute of it. So then it brought me back, like, to the concept of transferable skills and forgiveness. What is the difference between my can and my won't? What's the difference? That is work for me to do. And also understanding what the moment is. What version of yourself does this moment require? Because for some of us, we're in the middle of a moment or an experience that requires a version of ourselves that we've never had to be before. And it creates so much discomfort. But a lot of times I think that's the Lord working out in us what we will become. And it's okay. And my personal challenge is to know when to stop fighting. Because if I feel like I'm constantly placed in a position where I have to protect or defend myself. And see, in this world of career, professionalism, degrees, all of this stuff, that's cool. But the older I get, my challenge is separating Westlake projects to one, Gail and Anthony's son to one, Christine's grandson to one, Lee Huff's grandson to one, Jesse Lee Jackson's grandson to one. Separating those two people, Brookline and Elm Street, to one, from the dude that went to school and later entered into this professional world that required something from me. I can do the work, but I've never been the type of person, like, you say something crazy to me. Black folks on a wider scale, a wider cultural landscape, you know, we can forgive a few things. You don't talk to us crazy though. Don't say nothing crazy to me. And then, or smile in my face and then go sit at your computer and send a nasty ass email. And then when I see you again a few minutes later, like, you clowning and telling jokes that ain't funny, and the expectation is for me to laugh. Nah, I don't do that. I don't do that. I have done that, but I don't do that. That sounds funny. I have done that, but we don't do that. And what is God saying about that? There's work for me to do. What is God saying? So I just wanted to get on here this morning. That forgiveness hit me like a ton of bricks this morning, and I thought about all of those things, and I hope maybe it will help somebody who might be in a position that I'm in, or um, a different circumstance. But I hope that it will help heal. You know, what you gonna do? You gonna fight everybody? You gonna be mad at everybody? You gonna fall out with everybody? And that could be an indication that there needs to be some self reflection done, some self inventory taken, a fearless inventory. Alcoholics Anonymous program says taking a fearless inventory of self. Don't be scared about what you might find when you sit with yourself and reflect and be willing to give consideration to the fact that you do deserve to heal from whatever hurt there is. And maybe the person who caused your hurt or your pain, they might be dead and gone, but you still here. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to do the work to heal if you want to? We don't want to die bitter. We gonna die. We don't want to die bitter, broken, unhealed. The word says, who the Son sets free is free indeed. That son who had to call out to his father from the cross, Father, you do it. I ain't got it to do right now. Love y'all.